Mhm.
Hi, I'm Veronica, and I'm gonna interview my dad in diabetes type 1. So tell me, what's diabetes type 1?
Well, diabetes type 1 is a condition of the pancreas where the pancreas stops producing insulin, and insulin is necessary for the body to properly use carbohydrates, specifically glucose. There are two types of diabetes, type 1, which most of the time is developed when you're very young, and type 2, which is the type of diabetes where the pancreas just seems to be inefficient. So you need oral medication to get the pancreas to do what it's supposed to do. Usually type 2 develops when you're an adult. Type 1 is usually when you're a kid.
And how long have you had this condition, and how were you diagnosed with it?
Well, when I was 9 years old, I remember that all of a sudden, I used to be very tired. I used to go to the bathroom a lot, and I was always thirsty because I was going to the bathroom so long, so many times. And so they took me to the doctor. They tested they did some blood work, and they saw that my blood glucose was through the roof, and that's really the indication that you have type 1 diabetes. So immediately I was hospitalized, and they started me on insulin treatment, and so that was when I was 9, and this year it'll be 49 years since I've had the condition.
As being so young, growing up with that, having like your friends that they didn't have it, and you're like a little kid at 9, how was growing up with that?
Well, what I remember, I at that time it was only one injection in the mornings when I woke up. So, when I left home, it was pretty normal. I was able to do just about everything. Every once in a while, I got my low blood glucose shots where I needed to eat something, and I always used to eat something right away, and my glucose would go up. And I would go on like a normal kid. I did sports, I went to dances. I was really not limited by the condition. It was more of a nuisance having to every morning take the insulin shot. So all in all, I don't see when I was growing up that much different than other kids. The only thing that I never got to do, my parents wouldn't let me go on camping trips because you need to keep the insulin, in a refrigerator, and they were afraid that something might happen to me. That's the only thing that I was never able to do.
And the diet, did you have to change it?
No, my mother made sure that my portions were small, and there were not a lot of carbohydrates in it. And they wouldn't let me eat any desserts that had a lot of calories in it. So I got used as I grew up. I got used to not eating ice cream. So it's something that I see, and I never have a craving for it. I never really had a craving for high caloric food because since I was small, I was kind of trained not to go after those.
And compared to the diet you ate when you were little and now, is it the same? Have you like maintained the same routine?
No, no, because over the years, the treatment options have changed. I no longer take one shot a day. I mean, I got to one point where I was taking 5 insulin injections per day. And and that mimics more the what the pancreas normally does. So it gives me more flexibility to eat things that in the past I wasn't able to eat, because now I can really, if I had a craving for a big bowl of ice cream, I can do it, but all I have to do is make sure I take an insulin shot to compensate the amount of carbohydrates in the ice cream. I didn't have that flexibility when I was a small kid.
So all of these carbohydrate things, did how did you learn that you sat down and you like wanted, like learned all of this, or like the doctor told you?
Yes, the doctor told you a little bit. When you're growing up, I didn't understand really any of it. As I grew older and I, went to school and I took my courses and I read information from different sources, you learn more and more about the condition. I've been very vigilant about all the treatment options, and I've always been very, very inquisitive about what's out there, what's the latest in terms of treatment. So that I think has helped me because I know what works, what doesn't work, what other people do. So the treatment over the years has really evolved.
So I know that when we were little, you were always really aware like of everything we did, and because you had it when you were 9, so it was that really like a fear for
Yes,
us to have it.
when because I remember so vividly how much I used to go to the bathroom, how thirsty I was all the time, as 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 you were growing up and how Miguel. Every time I saw either one of you drinking a lot of water or going to the bathroom a lot, uh, I had the fear. And so I remember asking both you and your brother, put your finger out, I want to test your blood glucose, and I did, and it was always okay. So that, put my mind at ease, and we went on, and obviously over the years, that fear has slowly eroded, at least in terms of developing type 1. And so I feel, it's not a fear for me anymore.
And do we have the gene like for our can our children have diabetes?
No, there used to be a belief that this was hereditary, but the research has shown over the last 30 years, 30, 40 years, that that's really not the case. It's a virus that attacks some people and renders their pancreas not able to produce insulin. So it's really not hereditary. I mean, none of my father or my mother had it. Neither of you have it. Cousins that I remember, type 1 diabetes. I don't know of anyone in my family that has it except me.
And it's type 2 is more common, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of people that have type 1.
Oh yeah, there are millions of people that have type 1, but type 2 is a more common one.
And with all the technology, you know that diabetes, like people that have diabetes are always like injecting themselves with insulin, and with the technology, how has it gotten easier for all the process? You don't have to be like
Yes,
injecting yourself.
like I said, I took one injection per day as I was growing up. Eventually, I moved up in terms of the number of injections when they developed a fast-acting and really good, long-lasting insulins. You know, there's a combination of those that meant I would be taking 5 injections per day most of the time. Um, there were always insulin pumps. Always, insulin pumps have been around probably for 5 or 10 years. However, the early insulin pumps involved basically sticking a tube in your abdomen and having this long plastic tube come out from your clothes and attaching it to a device. And I always felt that, I wasn't comfortable with the.
So you prefer injecting?
I prefer injection. So, because you always have to carry this thing around and have to worry about where the tubing was, and it seemed to me uncomfortable wearing that 24/7. So I was happy with the 5 injections per day, and then a couple of years ago I read about this new technology where basically they are disposable insulin pumps that you just simply stick to your body, and they operate for 3 days, and then you peel them off and you throw them away, and you put a new one on, and that got me interested because I felt that I could probably live with because it's really very non-intrusive. So and they developed those pumps, they made them smaller, and finally, just a couple of months ago, I started using those, and I'm wearing that one now, and it's not obvious that I have it, and that has been really a liberating. I haven't taken an insulin shot in over a month and a half. The small pods, I have one here just in case you can see how small they are. They're very small. You put them in your belly, you put them in your arm, and they're really small. And so once you put them on, it injects a small plastic tube in under your skin. You don't feel it. It's not painful, and you simply, whenever you eat, you have a wireless remote that tells you, this is how much you should add, and you add it, and you go on. So it's been
It's just
really,
like having an iPhone. Like
yeah,
if
it's
you
like
have
an
like a
iPhone.
little beeper or something.
And in the future, I'm sure that instead of having the device, which looks like a phone, the software will probably be integrated in phones. So you don't even have to carry two devices with you. And it's been very liberating. And, my blood sugars have been great. And I feel even more normal in terms of not having to always start worrying about taking my insulin shots.
That's really interesting. And is that something like a lot of people know about it? Because of you is the first time I know about it.
I think, it's an evolving technology. The company that sells these, I believe they're selling, a lot. They could probably sell more. It's it takes some getting used to. I mean, it's not the ultimate solution, which is kind of an artificial pancreas that measures your blood glucose and delivers the required amount of insulin. I think it's a path to the future. These things will become smaller. It will measure glucose right there and suggest an added amount of insulin. But it's a step in the right direction. I think at the end of the day, more people will be using these, and they will have less complications that come with diabetes, and will be healthier for a longer period of time.
And is there an age range for can babies use it or elderly
Actually,
use it?
I've been very surprised in reading about these omnipods, which is what they're called. I know that there are parents putting them on kids as young as 3 years old, uh, and effectively, so that they don't have to be sticking needles into 3-year-olds all the time. And it's funny because I see the pictures, in order to get the kids to kind of get used to it, they draw pictures of heroes like Superman and Batman. They tell them that they're putting on their bionic batteries, and the kids seem to be comfortable with that. So I think it's great. I think
You
the
highly
fact,
recommend
the
it.
fact that the technology, with kids is a little bit more difficult because kids do so many different things over the course of a day, so that you have to monitor more careful until they're able to monitor themselves. 3-year-old really, it's still too young to monitor uh, himself. But as you get to be 10, 12, you can really monitor yourself.
And type that one diabetes, it cannot. That's for a lifetime. It cannot be
Yes.
cured.
At least as far as today, there's no cure for type 1. It's and like I say, it's a condition. You manage it, and you have a very healthy and normal life with it. Like I said, there's been very little things that I haven't been able to do, like to go camping when I was a kid, and
Can you be born with it?
I don't think so. I never heard of a newborn with diabetes, but
It like they could get it young.
yes,
Yeah.
they can develop it as young as 6 months old or a year old. Those are probably the least. Usually it's between, I don't know, I think 5 and 10 years old.
So what's your, for children that are diagnosed with diabetes, how, what, after you being so many years dealing with it, what would be your recommendation for them?
Well, my recommendation for parents is not to think that this is a life sentence for their children. It's a condition that has to be managed, but it certainly is not something that will impair, that will limit the things that you can do. One of the members of the cross country skiing team that went to the recent U.S. Olympics is a type 1 diabetic. He competed. I don't know exactly how he did, but he competed. So
He's there. He
he
got
was
there.
there, and there really is no limit as to what you can do. You can do pretty much what any other normal person could do. And for parents is not to lose hope. Their children will grow to be normal human beings, and that diabetes is really not a life sentence. It's not something that's going to limit them. And you know, I am an example of that.
So thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
I hope that you keep getting better and liking the little pod. Um, thank you.
Okay.